Right.
At home and the school thing. So it's kind
Nice
of
little build
yeah.
Right.
Whatever things. Yeah. So and it's he likes it. He really does. Evan.
All right, we are good.
We're on?
We're on.
Better explain.
All right, we were having some technical difficulties, but I believe we are live streaming again. The student council just finished their student representatives report, and we are ready for the superintendent's report. Construction update.
Yes. You know, you look back at the students' report, it's hard to even think that they're missing a beat this year, as upbeat as they are, and, you know, adjusting to the new normal, or we do no differently. A couple items here. Construction update, not a lot to say here, but we're moving through the remaining punch list and IT items that have been identified. I didn't get a chance to talk to George today as far as where we are on those lists. Last Friday and today, they're busy swapping out a lot of they had a lot of furniture in the last couple of days. And I think both principals Friday and Monday, you guys were swapping out mostly teacher desks and classroom things that were either back order or on that second order. And then we're looking at possibly the November work session to have Wolden, Market Johnson here and kind of give a close to final wrap up so we know exactly where we're at with all the different issues cooking with the project. As far as district health update, you know, as you heard from the kids there, you know, this is affecting everything we're doing within our school day, you know, our activities and what have you. And we keep navigating the ups and downs of the virus, you know, that circulates through the community and the schools. You know, I still believe, you know, from our principal or superintendent conversations and things like that, that we're on the lower edge of issues that other districts are having. And I really believe from what I see, it's, you know, our people are doing such a good job with the sanitizing and, you know, keeping that physical distance when possible and masking up. I think our people are really doing a great job. The issue we have right now, and we've seen this in other districts around us, and we're seeing now is it's starting to take a toll on our staff in our building administration, all of us. You know, we're having to turn on a dime. We're feeling less and less prepared. You know, just the additional prep work and stress for the staff is mounting. DPI is allowing us a great deal of leniency as far as waivers this year. They finally believe that it's up to us. We can make some decisions on how we run our schools this year and give us some autonomy in that area. So they're basically granting us waivers for anything that we actually apply for, just so they know what we're doing. So we've really started focusing on, you know, how can we take the stress level down of the staff and in the buildings and that. And one of the items that we did this last week was take educator effectiveness off the plate for this year, which is really kind of a twofer because it gives the principals more time now to work with students and staff, and it gives staff more time. We really want to concentrate you know, on getting these kids through this year. So as we continue to take a look at different ways we can help support our teachers, we put a survey out last week as far as asking them different questions about stress level, about additional prep time, and what have you, and who, you know, are you feeling supported? Are you getting the support you need? And we just reviewed the 3:30 today. We reviewed the survey results, and we're going to still go through these. But it's been kind of our, you know, what we're moving towards is we believe we need to give them some more time. And districts around us are doing everything from late starts to early outs, which collectively we don't believe that that's really the answer. What we'd like to move to is possibly a 1 day every 2 weeks that we give teachers a virtual day where they can, you know, they'd report to work as would the support staff, and they'd be able to catch up. And some of that catch up might be connecting with students or not. But we really feel that we need to give them some more time right now because you just feel the tension level, and it's, you know, even amongst us, you know, we're wired trying to help everybody all the time. So, you know, as we become more and more dependent on this virtual platform, we're seeing that we just need to give some more, time to these people. And principals, I don't know if you wanna share anything. Again, we still need to go through a little bit more of the survey, but it was really good information. And
Yeah, I would say, you know, what led us to the survey was based off of kind of what we've seen and heard from staff over the last month and a half, and kind of watching that progression from the beginning of the school year until now, and how much has changed in that almost 2 months. 2 months ago, you know, we really hadn't thought about all the online things that are happening in each of our buildings, and it looks different, admittedly, in each of our buildings right now. But I think we are really concerned about asking teachers to maintain this current pace and this current workload without somehow finding a way to be responsive to their physical health, their mental health, to be able to be at their best for our kids. So as Dr. Bezick said, you know, collectively, I don't think we've come to an absolute decision of what that looks like yet, because we also want to be responsive to our families and our students, and, you know, have some good conversation. I think Mark had mentioned too, you know, getting some input from our families in terms of what might be most helpful to them. But I think we've collectively come to the decision that we have to do something. And I know staff was very vocal in a very good way about our survey in terms of being able to kind of voice where they're at right now and how they're feeling with their stress level and that workload. And that yielded some really good conversations in all of our buildings. So I guess for me, I just want to reiterate how much we have seen change in terms of what we're asking our teachers to do from September until now. And they're killing it. I mean, literally they're doing things above and beyond what I think we ever would have imagined was going to happen with kids quarantined and all the stuff. But they need more support, and I think we just need to figure out what that looks like.
Sarah, Pam, anything to add to that?
Yes.
But
You know, and talking, you know, and I would say that kudos, the collaboration level is higher than it's ever been, and sometimes a crisis really pushes that for you, right? Where we've been talking about the importance of collaboration, and I think our teachers are really feeling right now, where if I don't know the answer, there are other people who I can find. It's finding the time to be able to get to those people. And they're doing it, and they're finding the time, and they're using the reps, and they're being so creative with buying a microphone so they can live loom, and then they don't have to take their prep time to record. They can record the live, you know, so just some of those pieces, they're really being extremely creative, and to the point of like, I mean, we have to be. Right now, I would consider we're at a lull at the middle school when it comes to students we have on quarantine. That's not gonna last forever, and we know that, and so now we're enjoying the single digits that we have because we know that that will change, but anything that we can do to kind of better prepare ourselves for that is helpful.
Totally agree with both of my colleagues, but the thing is that they don't stop for a minute. Like literally the kids get off the bus and they go right into class because we're trying to keep them in their cohorts, physically distant. So just the time and the energy and the effort and the trying to keep that pace is really the part that's just, I totally agree. They're nailing it, they are. But how long before something gives?
Yeah, I don't think there's ever been a more stressful year in education, ever. And I've thought about that myself. I mean, how can you keep up not knowing what's gonna happen any day that you walk into your building? Because you just don't know, and it's hard, it's stressful, and you have to do something, so.
Well, plus they're almost all doing both.
Right.
They're teaching to kids in the classroom and they're teaching to kids distantly. So it's almost like doing two jobs.
The districts around us have been doing some interesting things. Mm-hmm. They've been giving teachers, some districts have actually been giving teachers a day a week. Mm-hmm. I mean, so 2 a month is certainly something, but it isn't over the top. Have anybody talked to parents about whether they would prefer a Monday or a Friday or a midweek?
Our plan
that's the next piece, is that we, if it's favorable here to move forward with this, we'll survey the parents to see, you know, just saying, we need to do something, this is more likely what it'll be, what day works best, to kind of get a feeling. Is it a Friday, is it a Monday, is it a Wednesday? Things like that.
I talked to a teacher who teaches on the other side of the river, and they have Mondays off to prep. And she said that they really preferred Mondays because they're up and running and then they get ready for the week, whereas you're so tired on Friday that they felt like they didn't get as much done when they had Friday off, just their feedback.
So I'm just, so you're talking about having a day for where the entire district would have.
That's what our neighbors are doing, and even on this side of the river.
I believe St. Croix Central is
day or something.
a work day every Friday for their staff.
Yeah, I don't know how you can prep otherwise, or just have time to think.
I think, one day a week might put our families over the edge right up that way, but 2 a month is certainly doable. We'll do a survey and we'll find out.
Yeah, we're learning as we go. There's no roadmap on this, but, you know, just as we go, we're learning where the tolerances are and where the cracks are, and now we're moving into this phase here where, you know, we're gonna need some help. We need help for some people, so, we'll go ahead and make that survey, and then, you know, before we do anything, come back here to the board with the information. So that's all I have.
Did anybody have any further questions or comments about construction or the health update? The enrollment report is attached. Did anybody have any questions or comments about that? The financial reports, Dave will be joining us when we get to item 5, but did anybody have any questions or comments about the financial reports? All right, then moving on, we are to item 3, the open forum portion of the meeting. And several people have contacted us wishing to speak to item 4 on the agenda, the district equity discussion. Before we begin, our district administrator, Mark Bezick, and curriculum instruction and assessment director, Tricia Sheridan, will provide some background information.
Thank you. Over the past few months, we've been questioning the challenges of district on our position on many social issues that we're seeing played out day in and day out throughout the surrounding area and the world regarding to equity. You know, with that said, I don't think as a district we are ever not thinking about equity issues and how we can support each and every learner to the best of our ability. 5 years ago, we embarked on a new strategic plan. Within that plan was one result statement dealing specifically with equity in our schools. Since that time, we've begun a concerted effort in moving the needle forward and increasing opportunities for all learners. And at this time, you know, Trish, I'd like you to talk a little bit about that result statement and our equity plan, the work we've been doing.
Sure. I'm gonna step up here. This topic is not new to the district. In fact, I've presented on this several times, and I present on it every year. And just this summer, I came in front of the board because we were talking about this with one of our alum and a group of students. Equity came to the forefront when we wrote our strategic plan. It was well thought out. It did not just include the word equity, it was diversity, equity, and inclusion. As we look at our staff and we look at marginalized groups and we look at different groups across our campus and how are our students faring. And that includes all marginalized groups. We were well ahead of our time, quite frankly, with 4 years ago us starting this work. And our work included the administrative team first examining our own knowledge base and becoming quite versed in what the work is of the state, coming out of DPI, going through our own Leading with Equity training. That training then came down and we trained our building leadership teams. Now we're in year 3 last year with our building leadership teams training our staff. That work itself includes many different components, which is only one leg of our training. Really looking at an equity audit across our campus. That equity audit looks to make sure that all students, from students of color to students from different socioeconomic backgrounds to students of different genders to all the way across the board, are proportionally represented in all different environments. To make sure that students from all different backgrounds are in AP classes proportionally represented, are disciplined proportionally represented, and so on. As we did that equity audit, we started to make goals. We looked at achievement, we looked at ACT scores, we looked at forward exam scores, and so on. We also went through many other components that include diversity, equity, and inclusion. to make sure that we were examining our own implicit bias. That's a big part of this training as well. We looked at our own identity development, which is the first part of understanding systemic racism, and so on. This is quite a slow-moving train, as it really does deal with mindset. It is a quite thought-out plan, and now DPI is moving forward with their own work. Pushing it out from DPI, pushing it out from every single curricular area, also pushing it out as they do work across the state. Wisconsin, as you know, is known for its high ACT scores, its high graduation rates. It is also known to have the widest disparity when it comes between our students, our white students, and our students of color. We absolutely are last in all of the states, with our students of color ranking last. Which the big question is why? And that is what Wisconsin is trying to determine. University of Wisconsin out of Madison is doing a lot of research right now, really looking at systemic racism, looking at our curriculum, looking at how we teach, looking at what we're bringing to the table, trying to determine why this is how things are rolling out and what we can do as educators, as a system, to move forward equity when it comes to all of our students, making all of our students feel welcome, valued, respected, and bringing achievement to all students regardless of background, regardless of skin color, regardless of who they are. Making sure rigor is developed, rigor is delivered to each student at the right time. So our full equity plan over the last 3 years, making this year 4, can be found on our website. I'll move it to the forefront so that it can be found more easily. It does involve much more than our equity work that I just described. It has many more components that you can take a look at as well. If you'd like me to go into more detail, I'd be happy to do that. I just wanted to set the stage for the work that we've been doing. Anything you'd like me to touch on?
We might come back to you.
Very good. Rebecca?
All right, so we have about 15 people scheduled to speak. They have the option to participate remotely via Google Meet or by phone. Opinions and ideas contributed by students, parents, staff, and other Somerset School District citizens are valuable to the school board, which is why we included on the agenda for every meeting. The board will receive such input without comment at this time. We anticipate a friendly and polite civil discourse. If a speaker becomes hostile, the speaker will be stopped. Please remember to limit your comments to 3 minutes and begin by stating your name, address, and group represented, if any. And I believe that Brandon Kozel is our first speaker.
Okay, so Matt will call him up. And then,
We have them on the screen too. or-
oh, yeah, we can ask him if he wants to be on the screen. Or,
Hi, Brandon, this is Lori Belargin.
Hi.
Hi. You had some information you wanted to share with the board on the screen, is that correct?
Well, just a comment. I'm having a lot of trouble trying to join these meetings, so I'm not gonna be able to post pictures or anything, but.
I can add you, I was not sure if you wanted to be on camera, Brandon, I can add you right now.
No, that's fine. I'm not even ready for it because I've been trying to figure out how to join this for the last 10 minutes, 20 minutes, so. So I have my comment ready, I just don't have pictures to go along with it, so. I didn't realize I was getting called, that's why I was trying to join Google Meets.
Yeah, the plan was to do both, so the audio would come through the phone, but we'd be able to see you on the screen.
Okay, I'll just give my comment.
Okay,
Ready, or
Sure.
start now?
yep,
All right, my name is Brandon Kozel. I live at 408 Abbey Lane in Somerset. The video cut out, and the last part you wanted something with what I'm associated with. You guys want any more information?
I think we're good, unless there's a group you're representing.
Nope, just myself.
All right.
All right. So I just want to voice my strong opposition to the possibility of BLM being advertised in the classroom. Per school policy, staff is not permitted to take a stance in politics. And I thank you for following policy tonight and only hearing from district residents during public comment. I hope that you'll continue to adhere to policy with this topic as well. Having only the draft minutes to go off of, since there were some technical difficulties at the last meeting with the internet, all I can gather is that it sounds like there was some discussion as to whether Black Lives Matter was considered a political movement or a humanitarian movement. I would urge the board members to reference the pictures that I emailed in. I don't know if everybody had a chance to look at those.
Yes.
Okay. In them, you'll find that the top Google result for Black Lives Matter comes up with their website and their mission statement summarized. In that statement, the group states that they're a political movement. If you need more proof on that, you can click the donate button on their website and you'll be redirected to ActBlue, actblue.com. ActBlue.com describes himself as committed to funding Democrat candidates up and down the ballot, and that's a quote directly from their website, as you see in the pictures. That is the only place listed for Black Lives Matter donations to go. I don't know how much more clear they can be about being political. I'll wrap up with this. I hear comments all over the place that some people think it's racist to not support their organization. That's not true. I participate in many events with and work with people of all colors, and I do not support Black Lives Matter as a movement, as an organization. However, it is racist to assume that all black people want to be represented by an organization that is driven division, demonizes our police, and only supports Democrat candidates. Black lives do matter, and you can find ways to prove that without advertising partisan politics in a taxpayer-funded classroom. Thank you.
Thank you, Brandon. Our next speaker is Monet Esquierka. Hello, Monet?
Hello?
Hello?
Yes, I can hear you.
All right. Would you like to join the Google Meet, or would you just like to give your statement via phone?
No, my phone is fine.
Okay, thank you. You can proceed.
Okay. So my name is Monet. I am going to be speaking on behalf of the agenda that the BLM signs and posters and flags being put up at the school. I want to start off with the policy, the manual. That is, the school number is 9700 in the school policy manual that states, the board shall not permit the use of any type of educational material, program, or equipment in its curricular, co-curricular, or extracurricular activities, or at any time during the school day, if such materials, programs, or equipment contain partisan, political, or commercial messages, or are designed to persuade students or staff members to acquire a particular product or service offered by named individual, company, organization, association, or agency. The second policy is code 9700.01. School facilities owned or leased by districts shall not be used or for advertising or otherwise promoting the interests of any commercial, religious, political, or other non-district agency or organization. So I know that the argument is this political, is this politicized? Absolutely, Black Lives Matter is political. They even state it with their description. In the Black Lives Matter description, it says Black Lives Matter is decentralized, political, and a social movement. The phrase in their organization and their structure says the Black Lives Matter can refer to a Twitter hashtag, a slogan, a social movement, a political action committee. This is their description, or a loose confederation of groups advocating for racial justice. A political action committee is what they state in their structure, which is an organization that pools campaign contributions from members and donates those funds to campaigns for or against candidates. All right, so my struggle is, okay, so you can go to the BLM home page, to their website, and it'll say on their web address, blacklivesmatters.com. When you click on donate, the web address will change. If you watch it change, you click on donate, and it goes to Act Blue. Okay, Act Blue is a nonprofit technology organization established in June 2004 that enables left-leaning nonprofits, Democratic candidates, and progressive groups to raise money from the individual donors on the internet by providing them. Yes.
Are you almost finished? Because your 3 minutes is up.
Yeah, I am almost finished. So absolutely, should we teach our children social justice? Yes, I know I do. But here's the thing. We need to have healthier ways and give our children not promoting a political agenda. So I'm trying to show that you can go, it's not hidden, that there is a political agenda behind the BLM.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, and you have, all right, thank you. Open up.
Our third speaker is Bobby Hurt.
He's your social worker.
Hello.
Hi, Bobby. This is Lori at the school board meeting. Are you going to join us via Google?
I'm going to issue my statement over the phone, just as a, for future consideration. When you join via Google Meet, sometimes when other members in the Meet don't mute, then you get their feedback mixed with yours and the video kind of all at once. So I give other people and their frustration towards that right now. And so I'm going to choose, I wish I was there with you, but I'm going to choose my statement over the phone.
Okay, thank you. Go ahead.
How am I coming in right now? Okay, everyone can hear?
I can, yeah. Yeah, we're good.
Okay. Good evening. My name is Bobby Hurt, and I'm in my 9th year at Somerset Elementary School as a school counselor. I wish I was there to meet with you all in person and see your faces, so that I can greet you all by name, because at Somerset Elementary, this is something that I'm known for, greeting students and staff by their names. It's not uncommon for a student to ask, Mr. Hurt, how do you know everyone, and how do you know my name? I respond simply by stating because it's important to me that you are valued. As a school counselor, it's my job to advocate for each and every one of my students. To do my work, they must know and trust that Mr. Hurt understands me. He is there to help me succeed. I'm here today to begin a discussion with you all and ask for your leadership and support so that all of our students, especially our students of color, can succeed in our schools. After the incidents that took place this summer and reflecting on our country's legacy of racial injustice, I knew my students were going to need an explicit promise from us, the Somerset school community, that we understand and support the notion that racism in our community will not be tolerated. They needed to hear from us that Somerset School District does not stand with the hate, oppression, or the injustice towards any community member. They needed to hear that our schools are against racism. After searching for this promise and commitment from district officials and not finding it, I made the decision to post a statement that has come to mean racial justice, one that is powerful and most importantly, relevant in our culture today. Further, one that is endorsed by a wide variety of non-political organizations, from the NFL to the NCAA to Target and Walmart to Google and Amazon. This big statement comes in the form of 3 little words: Black Lives Matter. Since I was not given a guideline or a policy on what visuals we encouraged to display to support the cry to end racism, I used my best judgment. I thought I could trust my judgment, as throughout my 9 years in this position, I have received positive and even distinguished evaluation ratings. Consistently, I have been shown that the school district uses my ability and trusts it to make decisions that will help students grow and develop in exceptional ways. However, what happens next will show you that I was apparently wrong. On September 16th, a man called our offices from across the country and asked about my sign. He was offered the chance to speak to me and to gain perspective of my intent, but he denied such offerings. Our office staff reports that he was angry and spoke in a threatening tone that I should be forced to take my sign down. I heard about this phone call from my principal, and we began a long conversation as to how I should proceed. We both sat in frustration as to what our next steps were because, as a district, we did not have a commitment or a promise that would support me leaving my sign up. Yet I still wanted to show how in Somerset we handle things with understanding and value conversations in order to show action. So I left my sign up. At the end of the day, the man called back, still adamantly refusing to speak to me and learn how I'm committed to support my students. He presented himself as angry and further demands to remove my sign. Without a promise, without a commitment to end racism, with the addition of a legal document from our district lawyer, which reminded me that school officials could enforce that I remove my sign, I was left to make a decision on how best to keep my valued job as a school counselor in this district. So I removed the sign. What Somerset schools supported that day was not a statement of racial justice, but instead one of ignorance and injustice. We listened and acted swiftly to those on the side of racism, not those on the courageous fight to end racism. And
Bobby?
so 3 little words, yes.
I'm sorry, but we're at the end of your 3 minutes. Can you finish quickly?
3 sentences if you have time.
Okay.
I hope that my story will pave the way for the creation of anti-racism policy for our schools. Somerset schools must now show a promise to the public that is relevant, it accurately conveys urgency toward ending racism in our schools. Many other schools have done this, and their voices are heard and their students feel protected. This serves as a reminder to the community and values of the promise of inclusion. So I ask of you, the leaders of our school district, to make this commitment too. Thank you.
Thank you, Bobby. Our next speaker is Jacqueline Olson.
Hello,
Hi, Jacqueline. Can you hear us?
I can hear you just fine, thank you.
All right. We are ready if you are.
All right, my name is Jackie Olson. I'm a parent of 3 Somerset students, and I'm calling in to oppose the placement of BLM posters in our schools. You justify this by saying it's for equity in our schools. However, if you look up the definition of equity, it is defined as the quality of being fair and impartial or not biased. People aren't opposed to the phrase Black Lives Matter. It's the fact of what the organization itself represents. If you look up BLM online, they are described as a decentralized, radical, political, and social movement. In the summer of 2015, BLM became involved in the 2016 presidential election and also are pushing to defund the police political movement right now. It doesn't matter how you look at it, BLM is a political, controversial movement that only causes divide. Our society right now wants nothing more than to categorize us and our students into groups and create separation and hate. How is that fair and impartial? What would it look like if our society and schools focused on what's inside our students' hearts rather than what makes them different. How could that alone make an impact on our schools and communities as a whole? We need to cross the divide to unify us. We need to be examples with our actions of loving our neighbors and carrying each other's burdens. If the school wants to see real change, it must start with creating opportunities to bring students together and seeing each other as one. It starts with action. Putting up a BLM poster does not accomplish this at all. It only puts students into categories of pro-BLM or anti-BLM. It also puts the school in an issue with them being required to then allow other posters that say all lives matter, blue lives matter, baby lives matter, and on and on. How about a poster that just says you matter? One of the biggest problems the school district will face is that this will go against 5 of the school district's policies, and I'm not going to get into them because I will just list them. Policy 2240, which is controversial issues in the classroom. Policy 3310, employee expression. Policy 5000, school-sponsored publications, which includes posters. Policy 9700, relations with non-school affiliated groups. And the advertising policy as well. Because I work in the legal field, I found some cases where schools or teachers have specifically gotten into trouble this year with allowing BLM posters in schools. In Burlington, Wisconsin, teachers were disciplined and the school board reminded the staff they need to remain neutral with political or religious influences. In Kenosha, Wisconsin, a teacher was put on administrative leave for posting a BLM poster going against policies. In Lakeville, Minnesota, the school board took a stance that BLM posters would not be allowed in their schools, saying, quote, the goal of the district is to maintain neutrality as to political issues. The school district needs to seriously consider these issues and refocus our attention on actively unifying our students and not setting up separation. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Jackie. Mike Labossiere is our next speaker.
Please leave your message for 651755715.
That's the right number.
Yeah, well,
Yeah, I know, yeah, it's the right number.
I'll leave a message.
Call back, I guess, and he'll leave a message.
Leave a
The
message.
next person come back to them.
Yeah. Pardon me?
Call back or
You
skip
can
it.
call him back later if you'd like, yeah.
So go to the next one?
Go to the
Sure.
next one and then.
Let's try Kristen Cisco, she submitted it already.
Oh, that's right. I don't need to type it.
No?
Let's try this way.
Black Lives Matter is not a political issue. It was started after a poorly placed hashtag. Black Lives Matter does not mean only Black Lives Matter. Black Lives Matter represents every minority struggle for equity over thousands of years of history. If anything were to be political, it would be the power and authority that the government consistently enforces onto minority groups without the legitimacy to rule the minority, which ironically I was just teaching the kids about last week. This is a deeply personal issue for me as a privileged white middle-class citizen. I did grow up in Northeast Minneapolis, a rough area, but again, the privilege I was afforded through a mom who left the cities after a divorce let me not be exposed to much until I was a teenager. Though I lived away from my inner city family, that did not stop me from learning over and over again how privilege works. From the time I was 21 and I was in Minneapolis with a bunch of companions, and after a night out, 2 of those companions chose to pee in a garbage can. Yes, not good behavior. But the police officer that came around the corner did not see me or my other white companion, only my black companion. He called him every name in the book, things I had never heard. In another incident, when I was driving with a friend, probably in my late 20s, early 30s, also the driver was a large black male. He happened to be a bodybuilder. We were pulled over on the way to the Mall of America. When stopped, he asked the police officer why he was pulled over. The police officer ignored him and continued to ask me, leaning in the car, if I was okay. I was so proud to work in a desegregation district for 15 years with our mission and vision was to break up pockets of racial and socioeconomic poverty. Powerful surrounding white dominant districts stepped in and said that racism no longer existed, so our school was closed. I was moved to an inner city middle school in St. Paul, where I noticed on the first day my schedule said advanced classes and regular classes. I had never seen that as a form of tracking at a middle school. I'll let you guess the first day what color the skins of the kids were that walked into my advanced classes. And I'll let you guess how many EBD Black children supported by an IEP were in my regular classes. Those of you who know me know I don't show my emotions much, but that day I bawled like a baby. I felt like I was back in 1952 with a sign that said whites only. That year in education broke me hard. That's when the job opened up in Somerset. I wrestled with taking it specifically for the reason that you are all here to discuss tonight. How can the majority, with all the privilege that are afforded to us, understand that they have to support the minority population always? A very close friend told me, though, we're better to keep working on equity than a place where people don't see how much every person deserves love and has to be taught how to not to hate. Minority populations who feel hurt have always, for thousands of years, and always will, want to obtain the rights that everybody in the majority and the privilege have. That's the side of love that it stands for, not hate. That's what Black Lives Matter stands for everyone that wants to stand on the side of love and not hate and understand that their own power can change the lens of equity. That should be the most powerful mission and vision that our district has. Thank you.
Brandon Wallen is our next speaker.
This is Brandon.
Hello, Brandon. This is Lori Belargin at the school board meeting. Are you ready to make your comment?
I am more than ready. Can everybody hear me all right?
We can. Would you like to join us via Google Meet, or are you just going to give your statement over the phone?
I'll just do it right here over the phone.
Thank you.
Alrighty, my name is Brandon Wallen. I live at 308 Harriman Street, Somerset, Wisconsin. I am opposed to BLM political materials being displayed in our schools by teachers. We are the taxpayers, and the taxpayers don't need to agree on politics, but we do agree that they don't belong being taught to our kids. I don't want my kids being taught one biased view on BLM any more than someone opposite from me doesn't want their kids being taught one biased view on the NRA. From the draft meeting minutes, it says someone asked what the difference is between BLM and LGBTQ. Being gay is not a political statement. That is a disgusting comparison to make, and the person who made it should be ashamed. On BLM's website, the Donate tab sends you to Act Blue's website. Act Blue is a funding mechanism for only Democratic candidates. I repeat, only Democratic candidates. Every cent donated to BLM goes to a political candidate. It doesn't get any more clear than that. If this is allowed in our schools, it's also clear that our nonpartisan officials have chosen their own politics to prevail over policy and a neutral learning environment. Follow policy and don't divide Somerset more than it already is. That's all.
Thank you, Brandon. Would you be able to just hand the phone over to Carlene, or would you like us to call her phone?
You can call her phone separately.
Thank you.
Carleen.
Hi, Carleen. This is a school board meeting. Would you like to make your statement over the phone, or would you like to join us via Google Meet?
I'll do over the phone.
Thank you. Go ahead.
My name is Carleen Wallen. I live at 308 Harriman Street, Somerset, Wisconsin. I would like to state my opposition to allowing staff to display BLM political propaganda in our children's classrooms. I saw on the meeting minutes that there was discussion on whether BLM was a political issue or a humanitarian issue. My response would be, if you have to discuss it to determine what it is clearly too complex for grown adults to come up with an answer. So how can you expect grade school children to fully grasp the extent of that topic? As an expecting parent, I am faced with a decision on what community I want my child to grow up in. What route I should take with their education, whether it's public, private, or homeschooling. What are you going to do to prove Somerset schools are neutral and safe? I'd like for our elected officials to do what they were elected to do. And nowhere in those responsibilities does it include allowing you to force your political views on our kids. Please keep politics on both sides to yourself and provide an unbiased learning environment. To our children, I'm all for equality and making sure students feel safe, but BLM only targets one certain race. There has to be a different way to introduce our students to different cultures. Thank you.
Thank you, Carleen. Our next speaker is Lauren Young.
I have a phone number.
Please leave your message.
How about if we come back to her as well? Arthur Parks.
Hello?
Hello, Arthur.
Yeah.
Hi, this is a Somerset School Board meeting. Would you like to make a statement via phone or Google Meet?
Yeah, I would like to make it on the phone.
Go ahead.
Arthur?
Yeah.
Hi, this is the Somerset School Board meeting. Would
Mute
you like
your
to make a
computer.
statement via phone or?
There's a feedback here, give me a second.
Yeah, I would like to make it on the phone.
Yeah. Okay, I realized what was going on. Can you still hear me?
We can.
Okay, I'm sorry about the delay. Number one, racism is wrong in all its forms. I absolutely and I completely agree with that. But I was born and raised on the south side of Chicago. I lived through the race riot of Chicago during those days. And I've lived here for 15 years, and I haven't seen racism in any form, let alone systemic. You may disagree with me, that's your right. But even though we have a First Amendment right to say what we want to say or even need to say, having BLM posters in the school for any reason is a political statement. Now, I want to ask you a question. Has anyone here read the BLM manifesto? I have. Do you know what they propose in that manifesto? Number one, they will only produce funds for Democrat and liberal candidates. Number two, they want to destroy the nuclear family. They believe the nuclear family is a roadblock to their political achievements. Number three, they want to defund and destroy police departments across the country. Number four, their main goal is to segregate black from all other races. Now, that is racism in and of itself. You may disagree with me, that's your right. But they are not a non-political or non-partisan organization. They are a Marxist organization. They are socialist. Our country is based on a higher order of beliefs, and our Constitution is very strongly opposed to anything socialistic or communistic or Marxist. Now, you may not like what I'm saying, and that's fine with me. What I do want you to understand is that the malleability of children's minds from the moment they're born until they're in their mid-20s makes them easy targets, if you will, of shaping and forming. They should not have to deal with political mindsets that they're not ready for. BLM is like I said, a Marxist organization. They are very political. They only support Democrats, and I don't care if you support a Democrat or a Republican. That's your choice. But when you have it offset like that, that's political stuff our kids don't need to be involved with. Read their manifesto. It is very eye-opening.
Mr. Parks, are you done?
Yeah, I guess I am.
Okay, thank you so much.
You bet.
Ashley Parker is our next person.
Hello, this is Ashley.
Hi, Ashley. Are you ready to make your statement to the school board?
Yes, I am.
Would you like to join us over Google Meet or just via phone?
Via phone is fine.
Okay, go ahead, thank you.
My name is Ashley Parker, and as a parent of a current Somerset student, I am against allowing the BLM posters to be put up around the schools. I'm against allowing politics of any kind in our schools, and that goes for either side of politics. Our kids are supposed to go to school to learn how to function around other people, learn math, how to read, and to be involved with a group of peers in a neutral environment. Allowing staff to incorporate their personal politics into our classrooms is not only against policy, it's also morally wrong. How can you be so willing to put the stress and division of this world into young minds and completely disregard their innocence? BLM is highly controversial, and it stands for nothing more than ensuring the organization's political candidates are funded. I hope that you are all able to take a step back from your personal stance and realize you're supposed to be representing all families. Do better, because the residents of Somerset are listening tonight, and you're crossing a line that you shouldn't even be near. Thank you.
Thank you. Michelle Polisich is our next speaker.
Good evening.
Hello, Michelle. Are you ready to give a statement to the school board?
I am. Thanks for having me.
Can you mute your computer? I think might be hearing feedback on it.
How's that?
That's great. Thank you so much.
Wonderful. All right. Sorry about that. All right. Thank you. Hello, and thank you for allowing me to speak tonight. My name is Michelle Pulisic, and I am employed as a speech language therapist here at Somerset District. I have been for over 20 years. I have also had the privilege to work closely with Latino families and their children in many additional St. Clair County school districts throughout my time in the area. I have recent experience participating in the Hudson School District Board meetings where the topics of equity, diversity, and inclusivity are being openly discussed, not only in the context of school, but also in the general community. It is my hope that the local districts in our area can look to each other for direction regarding equity and inclusivity. I know this is not an unfamiliar topic, as Somerset has already put tremendous energy into the subject, and I appreciate that. My hope is that our school district can stand by and trust its educators in supporting our students' educational, social, and emotional needs. The Black Lives Matter movement asks that Black and brown people have the same access to jobs, education, housing, and are treated fairly by the police. These are basic human rights that should be given to anyone. The term Black Lives Matter is not meant to be exclusive, but rather to say that Black Lives Matter too. Our Black and brown students need to feel that. Can you hear that? Hey, did I cut out?
Nope, we're still here.
Oh, okay. Our Black and brown students need to feel that we have their back. This can be discussed with students without political bias and without political agenda. Our students know what is happening in their world, and schools need to be safe spaces to figure out how to respectfully discuss these issues, even if some students may disagree. Students do and will have questions. How shall we respond? We should be able to define, explain, and essentially teach what words mean and strive to be leaders of inclusionary language and action. If not taught at school, students will not always develop the tools they need to process these potentially uncomfortable conversations. Updated curriculum and library books need to be accessible to expose our learners of all ages to varying perspectives and culturally diverse materials. Students need to know about and discuss systematic racism. Students need to understand the history of how we got here. Do our students know about Black Wall Street or Tulsa Massacre? Do they know about Juneteenth or the 1619 Project? These major parts of our history will allow for greater understanding, empathy, and coexistence in our small community. Our counselors, teachers, and specialists should be using similar language in how we support our students. Could Somerset School District consider the idea of surveying the community, or at a minimum examine the school climate to determine the need for further evaluation or needed changes? Is there blatant racism or bullying currently present? Do students feel safe in our community and at school regardless of skin color, sexual orientation, or disability? Are microaggressions and or incidents of racism negatively impacting our learners on a daily basis? Do they feel supported by it? Yep.
The 3 minutes are up. Can you finish? Are you almost done?
Yep. The learning climate is crucial to how our children develop and grow in a time where mental health issues are significantly on the rise. Let our district be a leader in examining this subject matter and having those hard conversations. Thank you for your hard work and placing this on the agenda tonight.
Thank you, Michelle.
Appreciate it.
Matt Foucault is our next speaker. Hello, Matt.
Hello, it's Matt.
Hi, do you have your computer on to live stream?
I will talk over phone.
Okay, go ahead then.
Okay, Start off, I want to disagree with what your previous speaker just talked about. That is not the role of the public school district. So with my statement, good evening. My name is Matt Foucault. I'm a resident of Somerset Township with 3 students enrolled in the school district. I'm also a police officer of 17 years with a deep-rooted respect in society and law and order. Many mornings, my children have awoken and asked their mother if I was home and alive the night before. We, my wife and I, strive to build open minds in our children and respect for everyone they meet and know. I do not believe it is a school district's position to enhance beliefs regarding one side or the other. Instead, it is the opportunity of the school district to come together and set a foundation for our students to build their knowledge and education upon. Posting and or endorsing BLM science is not the solution. We must be all-encompassing on what our children are exposed to. Oftentimes, I find myself asking, what are our teachers experiencing? They are engaged with students of all kinds of backgrounds, and I believe we as a community should be endorsing the statement of help me understand. We need to understand what our students and their families are going through, and as a result, what our teachers are going through. We should not demean or condemn one person, but instead ensure we are listening to all opinions in search of commonality. Our students come from families of nurses, doctors, mental health professionals, police officers, and Black and minority community members. I challenge each of you to ask yourself, what is our core identity, and what are we building our children's identity upon? My children have been exposed to teachers in this district in support of posting and supporting the BLM movement. Oftentimes, the narrative of this movement has been in support of the destruction of law enforcement and even the death of police officers. I take offense in this narrative and do not agree with my children being exposed to this movement in the public school setting. This narrative is not helping in the healing of social injustices, but instead only deepening the divide. Police officers all over this country make poor decisions and make mistakes. That doesn't mean that all police officers do. I challenge this board to rise to the expectations of society and meet the opportunities of determining what our children should build their knowledge and education upon. Quite frankly, is the BLM movement even fully understood? And more importantly, who is this board to support a movement with such unknown influencing results? I urge each of you, in addition to our teachers and staff, to strive to disagree with one another without vilifying one another. The current narrative in our culture is that there is a racist movement taking place regardless of what you support. I reject this notion and believe we are missing the deeper issue. We must strive to oppose racial injustice, but still respect society, law enforcement, and our children's needs. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Matt. The next person was Anya Swanson, and I believe she also submitted a video.
Hi, I'm Anya Swanson, a 2018 graduate from Somerset. I just wanted to address the equity conversation. The fact that this is up for debate demonstrates how far Somerset School District is away from equity. The mere idea that Black lives do in fact matter is up for debate. To acknowledge that Black lives matter is the absolute least you can do. Mattering is existing with importance. And I remember learning in elementary school that every person is of value. So I find myself very confused that valuing your students' lives would bring such controversy. I have a question for the school board and this district. Do you believe that the lives of Black, Indigenous, people of color matter? If you don't, you have no business leading this district. And if you do, then prove it. Advocate, educate, open your mind, and support your students. This district has failed these students for too long and failed at its basic duty to value their existence. This is so basic, a basic human right to live without discrimination, without fear, and without stereotypes. How are you failing at something so basic, so fundamental to human life? allowing Black Lives Matter signs is the least you can do. And it is in no way the finish line. This district needs action and change to make its way toward equity and to support its students of color. You are nowhere near it. The culture, curriculum, and lack of acknowledgement in this school district is appalling. This should not be a debate. This is a moral question. Who do you want to be? Will you support your students' fundamental rights to exist? Or won't you?
She's a former student, was that my
Yeah,
understanding?
class of
graduate.
18. And cross-country runner.
Oh, she was a good one, wasn't she?
She was very good. Will Shader is our next speaker. Oh, I have an email from Will. Go ahead and try to call him though. He said no one ever let him into the meeting.
Hello.
Hi, Will. Would you like to join us via Google Meet now, or would you like to give your statement over the phone?
I can just give the statement over the phone.
Okay, thanks, Will.
So am I good to go?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So my name's Will Shader. I went to Somerset schools all my life. My permanent address is still in Somerset, actually, at my parents' house, even though I do go to school at Stevens Point. And recently I heard about the equity initiatives that the school board was considering and that the schools were considering doing, and I just kind of wanted to speak on that. So in my time at school, race and equity was never something we really covered deeply. I mean, like, sure, we talked about, like, MLK and the civil rights movement, so we talked about slavery and the Trail of Tears, but all these were, like, passing mention in American history instead of the very real and very important issues that they are. For example, I had never learned about the Tulsa race massacre in school, and I don't know very many people from my hometown who have heard about this. And to give some context, in the late 1920s, early 1920s, there was a thriving black suburb in Tulsa, Oklahoma, called Greenwood. And it was made up of a lot of people who had fled the South after the end of slavery and during the Jim Crow era. And it was actually one of the fastest growing parts of the country at the time. There were like black-owned businesses and hotels, movie theaters, bars, which was unheard of in the 19-teens and the 1920s. And it was so successful, it was actually known as Black Wall Street. But that didn't last, because in 1921, there was a confrontation between a black man and a white woman, which was, back in those days, not a good thing. No one really knows what actually happened because the police never had an opportunity to conduct an investigation. But the man, Dick Rowland, was arrested by the police. But this is not good enough for the citizens of Tulsa. And the white citizens formed a lynch mob and attacked the courthouse, which was defended by a black militia. And because they were so outnumbered and outgunned, the black militia retreated to Greenwood. But they were still unable to defend themselves, and the police actually joined in on attacking the blacks of Tulsa, and they burned down Greenwood, doing billions in property damage in today's money, and killing 300 black people. And when the National Guard was called in under martial law, they arrested every single black person in the city of Oklahoma, and not a single white person. And it's crazy that I never learned about that in school. It's the largest race massacre ever in American history on American soil. And I never learned about that in school. And I know for a fact that prejudice is alive and well in Somerset schools. And speaking from somebody who went there as a student, not too far in the past, I can't even tell you how many racist or sexist statements or jokes I've heard over the years. Like, it was so commonplace to me that it didn't even seem wrong at the time. But looking back to me, I can see how harmful that was for somebody in their teens, or even as an elementary schooler growing up in that kind of environment, when these issues are not talked about the way they should be in the classroom. And like one look around you today can tell you that like race and equity are still huge issues in this nation. Like we haven't solved those problems. We've made great strides for sure, but they're still here. I mean, whether or not you agree with the message of the recent protests, like the fact that they exist means that whether we like it or not, like race is still an issue here.
Well,
And we must educate our kids about this. We must have real
We
conversations about this so we can prepare the next generation to deal with these problems that they will inherit.
well,
Because today's students becomes tomorrow's senator. And how can we expect people to know about these issues if we never tell them? So I 100%, as a former student, support the board's focus on equity and diversity. And I view it as highly important.
we
for
have
our
to
kids.
stop, Will, the 3 minutes are up. Thank you, though.
Yep, all right, thank you for giving me time.
I'm thinking he was like this, so then he couldn't even hear you.
So we had 2 people that we were not able to connect with. You want to try Mike Labossiere again?
Hello?
Hello, Mike. Would you like to make your statement to the school board?
No, I wasn't able to watch it, so I'm not in the loop, so sorry.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Then the last person that we were not able to get a hold of was Lauren Young. Would you like to try her again?
Please leave your message for 715.
No connection? All right. Perhaps Lauren will send a written statement at another time. Kate Rohrbeck sent a written statement, and Kasia will be attaching that to the agenda, so we can read that at a later time. So we are finished with the open forum portion of the meeting. The next item on the agenda is the district equity discussion. I'm not sure about the rest of you, but I feel like I have a lot to talk about before I discuss anything. Or does anybody have any thoughts they'd like to share?
I was fact checking
Yes.
during, and what people are saying is on the Black Lives Matter site isn't right. It's actually on a Wikipedia page. So the Wikipedia description of Black Lives Matter says it is a non-centralized political group. The actual Black Lives Matter site and throughout the entire site doesn't say that anywhere. It doesn't have any. It does have the Act Blue thing, but that was it, and it wasn't digging into Act Blue. It doesn't say anything about politics. Doesn't say anything about candidates. Doesn't show which candidates they're going for. Nothing on the website. During a time like that, you'd think that it'd be here. And then additionally, with that, there is no Black Lives Matter manifesto. I couldn't find one that exists except for on other websites stating that that's something that existed in other places. It's nowhere in the Black Lives Matter thing. They don't have a manifesto claiming they're going to do the things that they're going to do. And I'm on their website right now. I couldn't find anything to verify those statements.
Well, I'm just, I thought when we had our discussion, in our last meeting, I mean, we brought it back here so that people could hear it. But I thought what the discussion really came down to was basically this policy of controversial issues in the classroom. I've heard a couple of people mention that controversial subjects are not permitted, but this policy specifically states that they are. And as long as it's the material is being talked about factually and, presented for the students' education, that it's all good. So I'm not sure that we even have to take an action. I didn't think we did, unless there's somebody who wants us to take some action. I think it's covered, and I think our educators are professional, and they know the rules by which they work from. And I just don't see all of the reason. So I get that it's controversial, and clearly from all of the public comments, people feel strongly about it one way or another. I just am not seeing where it's worked its way into our classrooms as a problem. I mean, this is all stemming from apparently one counselor having a poster up to tell the students of color that they matter. To make sure they felt welcome. So I'm not sure what we're even supposed to be doing except explaining the policy that has been in place since I'm sure prior to 2015. But I don't know why we would change our policy just because there's a controversial issue when our policy says they're permitted.
Does anybody else have any questions or comments they'd like to make?
I'm fine with the policy, because the policy says that, I just look at particularly the last two speakers. We all have work to do in this. We all have work to do. That's just common knowledge. And I think it needs to be a part of our curriculum, and that's what our policy says. We can permit controversial issues provided they are part of our instructional program and is related to the instructional goals of the course and the maturity level of the students. So we gotta trust that it's not maybe gonna come up in a kindergarten class, but it really can come up in a kindergarten class if you wanna have books. Your read-alouds need to have people of color. So that might be how we handle this in kindergarten. Doesn't mean we're talking about it in a controversial way. I think we need to trust our educators and follow our policy. Related to the program, the educational use initiated by students, I think our policy is really good. We just need to follow our policy.
Yeah, I don't, this isn't new. I was on this board when we had, and Shannon, you probably can attest to this, when we had a few students that would come to school with a Confederate flag. The Confederate flag was removed. I'm just not sure if there was a teaching moment for the students that had the Confederate flag, or, just get rid of it, and that was the end of it. But I'm confident today that if that were to happen, there would be a learning for those kids to really understand why it's not permitted. And there's no doubt in my mind, that we really do need to proclaim and instill that we have deliveries that we have to get out for, our marginalized students, the teaching opportunities, and all those very important things. The Black Lives Matter, if we want to hone in on that, that's a concern that I have, is we do have a large population of residents that live in the village of Somerset that are in law enforcement. And that was one of my concerns, is what message does that say to the students whose mom or dad are a police officer, if the context that people view that as is defunding police. I was concerned about that, and what was it going to produce? Is it are we gonna get the Blue Lives Matter flag, and now we have two issues now that we really have to combat, and I don't want to pick the sides. I really and I'm uncomfortable having this conversation. But I feel it's one that I wanna state how I feel about it. But that is, I'm concerned about the message, and really, a sign is a sign, and it doesn't speak to the kids. That can come into the classroom, and we infuse it into the deliverables in the classroom, and have an understanding. And I do appreciate the second to last, talking about the real life situations where, and I think we've done that in our strategic planning. We've addressed it, the equality. I'm happy to see that, and I'm not gonna say we don't have work to do. We all know we have some work to do. So I guess I'll digress at that.
Bruce?
I think everybody's stated something. I don't have anything to add. I mean, I feel like the policy, same as that Kathy brought up. It's in our policy, we trust our educators that they're not on one side or the other, that they're having a very open debate. And obviously, we had both sides coming together tonight, and that's how things are supposed to be handled in a civil way. And I think that's how we just run within our classrooms. I trust our educators that we've hired to follow our policies, and if there is an issue with equity in those classrooms or against these policies, then those need to be discussed with that specific teacher. But I think we have things to follow, and as long as they're not against those policies, I don't have an issue with it.
Roxanne, do you have any thoughts?
Bob made a good point that it's an uncomfortable conversation. I agree with that comment. I appreciate all of the callers today. It was very informative. I'm wondering if we have, and I look at the work that we've done so far, and it's great, and I think we're making strides, and I appreciate that. But there's always work to be done. I agree. Do we have any student groups in our schools that are interested in this topic that would offer their input into diversity, equity, and inclusion in the schools? And then I'm not voicing my opinion either way on Black Lives Matter, but could we, I guess, compromise is the word, and look at some posters and, well, I guess I'm thinking posters in general that show our support of inclusivity. I mean, even all are welcome here, or I don't know, I'm making this up, but Black Lives, we see you, or BIPOC, we see you, you matter. I mean, maybe this is something that we can all get behind as a community and get our students behind it and see what we can do to bridge this gap. One of the callers made a comment about let's not divide Somerset even more. And I really like that comment. I think that there's a lot of vitriol on social media, and that takes on legs of its own. And, I guess I'm looking for ways that we can, as a community, compromise, but make sure that our marginalized students, or anyone for that matter, feels important in our district.
Patty Jo, you were doing some fact checking. Is there anything else that you wanted to add?
What I do. I just, I have kids in the schools, and they've made comments of things prior to, and things seem to be better now versus inclusivity, and a lot less divisiveness that there was 4 years ago, 3 years ago. It seems like people graduated and things have gotten better. That said, I feel like we can't compare what you're born with, being black, with what you choose to do as a career with being Blue Lives Matter. that it's not the same. I didn't choose to be born a girl and I am a girl. You don't choose to be born black, you are black. You choose your career. And in law enforcement, I had law enforcement career in 10 years and I loved my job, but seeing criticism, taking it to that personal level, saying, well, they're thinking this. Criticizing the people who do bad things in your field is never the wrong thing. And when people are doing bad things in your field, you should be able to call it out without getting attacked for calling out that. And I'm saying that as law enforcement who called out racist cops. You should be able to do that. And we can't put the lives of people and the lives of an occupation at the same, because one you choose and one you're born with. And that's, I'm gonna get started on cop stuff as I can go on. So that's something that I feel needs to be differentiated because it's not the same. You don't choose to be born away. You choose your career.
Administrators, is there anything that you would like to add?
Not at this time. I mean, that's a lot to take in. I was just taking some notes to think about it and reflect. I mean, these are conversations that we're having, for sure.
Yeah.
Trying to figure out how to do it in a manner that supports all kids.
Yeah.
That's the hard part, because they're not easy conversations, and kids don't understand them right away. So we're trying to find the right angle to be able to do that as well. So.
I just want to comment on what Roxanne said about having kids be a part of this conversation. I think we have a lot of kids in our buildings that are very passionate about this topic and that would be very willing to come and speak, be a part of the conversation, and that would like to be highly involved. So if at a board level we come to a point where we want to have that conversation at a deeper level with kids, absolutely, because I think there's a lot of insight to be gained there in terms of students and their current experience, and you know, they're the ones kind of in the front lines right now, living and breathing everything that's happening in our building. So their voice and perspective, along with our teachers in the classrooms, I think are really important, you know, as a part of this discussion. So
I agree.
Compromise.
How can we make that happen? Can we invite
you guys tell me. I mean, I think we're really open to. I could look, I think, a lot of different ways, but.
Mark's got his hand up.
Yes.
Remember me? Yeah. I think we've moved 1 million miles over the last 5 years just in with our strategic plan, with entering into our equity work that we've done, started 3 years ago, the conversations that are being had. You know, I think maybe what the next step is maybe talking about that equity plan here more, having a deeper discussion and more affirmation from all of us that this is the direction we're going. So it's not one person standing out there saying, here's what we're doing. We all buy into it together. You know, I brought this to the board about a month or so ago because I could see where this was going as far as we put a BLM sign up, then someone's got a Blue Lives Matter, then somebody's Make America Great, somebody this and that. That's why I contacted Trevor to say, where do we stand on this? And our policy is pretty clear on controversial issues and what have you. And I want to know how to handle the next piece that comes up. And that's why I brought this here is what direction are we going to set and where are we going to go with this? And I'm not asking you to make a decision as far as saying, hey, this is it right now. I think there needs to be more understanding of just the issues surrounding it and the work that we're doing. And primarily work the Trish and the principals are doing in the building with the people every day. You know, I know enough to be dangerous on this, and I've come from larger districts where we've done a lot of work in equity, but every town's different. And you can see on the callers here, you know, you've got a lot of different comments there. So I just, from my 2 cents, I think we all need a deeper understanding, but bring it to the table here where we all get behind this plan. Because if we can't support what we're doing in our classrooms and our district.
What plan? What are you talking
about? Our equity plan and our equity work that we're doing right now. And that's what I'm saying. you probably need a deeper understanding of what that work is that's going on in the buildings right now.
Well, and I think that's what every caller pretty much said. I mean, obviously none of them support racism. They're all in support of equity in our schools. It's just how is that equity shown, right? I mean, that's what our strategic plan is.
And
going
there's ways
forward.
there's ways to achieve it with, does it have to be a BLM sign or whatever? You know, then whether we're talking about that or anything else, there's always ways to approach this and to tackle the problem. What's the best way for us to approach this in our community? And because there isn't anyone in here that does not want to see all kids treated equally or community members treated equally, given opportunities. But some start out with such a big disadvantage that, you know, we got to be there for them.
Mhm.
Trish, you want to talk about our work anymore, or is it you talked out?
Oh,
I know you're not talked out. You never are. But
that's funny. I just want to let everyone know that I did put it under our announcements on our website. So our equity work I've listed there. It's not 100% listed there because of the COVID closure. We never really closed out last year, so it's not 100% complete, but you'll see some links to some documents, some of the work that we've done across the campus, some of the different pieces that we've worked on at multiple levels, at multiple developmental levels, primarily with our staff so that our staff gains the knowledge that they need in order to carry through. And ours is largely wrapped around culturally responsive practices and pedagogy so that we understand how to best serve our students, and that means all students. The one thing I want to point out is that controversial issues policy. Racism is not a controversial issue, period. BLM is a trigger. You can hear where people stand on where they believe is political or not political, but racism is not a controversial issue. So teachers tackling and calling out what they see or identify as racist comments, or in literature, or where we can identify places where we can have a teachable moment, stereotypic generalizations in our literature, which is what our new ELA standards that are being rolling out is asking us to do, is not a controversial issue. So I just want to point that out. Thank you.
In addition to the controversial issues in the classroom policy, we do have another policy, 2131, the educational goals and expectations that we have in this district. And I know those of you who are sitting here with me have already heard this, but our meeting on the 12th was not videoed. So I would like people to know that we have other policies. 2131 is one of them. And one of the specific goals is that at all grade levels, students have an understanding of human relations, particularly with regard to American Indians, Black Americans, and Hispanics, and that they have the skills needed to cope with social change. And I'm very concerned about leaving this conversation very openly. I think our staff is asking for some clear direction. From the comments that I heard tonight, I get the feeling that they don't know where they stand, and they don't know what to do, and they don't know if they're going to be supported or not. I have the utmost faith in our teachers' skills and abilities to manage this difficult area. It's a difficult conversation. I mean, there's books about having difficult conversations. I think we need to make a clear statement to our staff that we support them in this work. And if they have a question about what that specifically means, I hope they reach out to us and ask us a specific question so that we can give them that reassurance and guidance and support.
Yeah, I guess I wanna go back to Bobby Hurt talking about, you know, he really, I truly believe with every fiber of my being that he completely meant well with supporting his students of color by hanging that sign. It's very unfortunate that there were threatening phone calls received. That to me is disturbing. So I guess, you know, anything I say tonight, I'm sad that that happened to Bobby Hurt, and I hope that he's not subject to some sort of discipline or something, because I do believe that he meant well.
No.
And it's sad that this thing blew up the way it did. I truly believe that wasn't his intent. And I feel like we just, as a community, let's take a deep breath and let's talk about this and come up with something that works for as many people. I think that there's a way that this can work, and we can compromise and we can have positive messaging in our schools. Because I know that the teachers and the administrators, you guys are working so hard on this. I know you are. And I want to help support that in any way I can.
Yeah, I mean, just brings it, gives more attention to it to make sure it's focused on each classroom, and that's what it took,
No one's getting disciplined over this.
No, and I guess I just wanted to.
We just
And
push
that's just
pause on it to have a
exactly,
discussion.
like, I just want to voice my support for Bobby.
No,
and by just saying,
It's a teachable moment for everyone.
absolutely. Well,
And I do wish, rather than people just assuming that our teachers are suddenly indoctrinating people with, whatever, that they might pick up the phone and call the actual teacher and say, what's the deal? As we try to tell them to do anytime there's a question about a subject. But it is very disappointing, because I know, these teachers are busting their butts to keep these kids in school. They have sacrificed so much this year, everybody in this district has. And when you see something, I get very upset. I can't even hardly go on Facebook anymore because it's so mean. And people make these assumptions about that there is some level of conspiracy going on between all of us, or maybe it's just the board or Mark or Dave.
It's more Dave than anybody.
All of a sudden you're indoctrinating these kids that you just are trying your hardest to teach, and it's really too bad. And I wish we at the board got a really wonderful email today, which meant a lot. I haven't had a nice one like that in a while, and I think it actually came from the same person who clearly understands. But so I just want the community to take a breath, calm down. You don't have to pile on like this. You can get your questions answered just by making a couple of simple phone calls, and you can do it nicely, by the way. That's all I want to say. Okay.
So now what?
I don't know. I mean, it's just a
I
discussion.
mean, what are we trying to accomplish? I guess you're now, what are we trying to get through? I mean, we've all discussed it, we've all, your opinion, I think we have our.
I guess one of my now what's is, have we given our staff a clear enough message that they feel supported
Supported in what?
in their work with our students and helping our students grow, with all of our students grow, and equity and diversity and inclusion.
Were we at one time unsupportive?
I am getting a message based on some of the speakers we heard tonight that some of them they weren't sure what to do. I mean, Bobby said that in his call, that he felt like he didn't have any direction.
I don't know that we can do anything about that here tonight. I feel like we do have policies in place for anything that he feels is not being addressed either. There are steps he can take. Those are already, well, known, hopefully by the employees. And I think the board has been pretty clear, we all believe in the equity curriculum, and we are very supportive and dedicated to our strategic plan, and nobody's gonna be disciplined because there wasn't any wrongdoing. So I don't know what more we could say.
I guess I would like to know then, from what I'm sensing here, you're leaving it in the hands of the teachers. If they feel it's appropriate,
yeah,
they can display whatever they choose. Right?
And the parents should tell
and that's the direction that I was looking for all the time, as far as where will you go with this? If it's, no, there's only certain things, or if you're, and from what I'm hearing consistently here, is that as long as the teachers can, it's up to them if they handle it properly.
And I have every confidence that they can.
I don't.
As if our educators can articulate the appropriateness of what they're displaying and give support to why they're doing it, and how, like Bobby did. I mean, he gave a great example to why he's doing it. I don't think our educators shouldn't be able to, if they can articulate how it helps in their education and how they're helping our students.
I'd like to find our own way to support equity in Somerset schools that doesn't bring in any of these controversial topics.
So like
The compromise that Roxanne brought up, how does Somerset do it within our school, our community, that works best for us? And again, I do.
I brought up something to Mark in the email when it came out, just to have like a Somerset Allies or something like that. And then have that be just a name for Somerset, to have posters or whatever that says Somerset Allies, we support you, and be inclusive to everyone. Something to that effect, it would include everyone.
Yeah, because we don't, obviously this is controversial, we don't need to have this influence the teachers positively, negatively, whatever way they stand, but if it's a district thing that we're all on the same page and there isn't any previous biased thoughts on any of these topics, but it's still getting equity across, I would hope that's the direction we go, instead of something that will cause.
So what I'm getting out of that is like creating our own poster?
Yeah.
Yes, our own, yeah, just like our own alliance, our own, maybe that's what the students come up with, what's their own, they did it for the LBGT, again, we're not comparing these, but it's, our students come up with something that they feel would be a way to show it in our schools. Because I think it is being shown, I think the students are doing it, and hats off to all our administrators and staff, I think it's being done. It's just, you know, we want that visual as well. I mean, everyone's into visuals, let's put that visual up in our schools. And maybe that's what the student
Could that be an action
does.
step under our equity plan? I mean, Roxanne, the one you referenced was All Are Welcome Here. It's just a fabulous, fabulous one that is used all over, that is, I really like that one.
Welcome mats on all teachers' classrooms. I mean, do something.
But if the students wanna have an action item,
Yeah.
that might be something to think about. Not that we wanna tell them what to do, but something umbrella-ish.
I think for those students that are interested in this topic, because we have a lot of students in our district that are passionate about this topic, I'm always amazed by what our students can do. I mean, I couldn't even believe it. The graduation ceremony, the choir was unbelievable for our little small town. I mean, the art skills in this district are amazing. I would love to see what our students would come up with. I don't know, and because I know that a lot of them are passionate about this subject. Just a thought.
As I
And it would
mentioned
bring a
before,
sense of community into
Right.
it. You're working as a group for this common goal.
Because that, everybody would call it was a common thread.
So principals, is this something that you'd be interested in bringing back to your student councils, or how do you feel about this?
I'd like to debrief it a little bit with some staff in my building. You know, we've got some groups already going that I think we could leverage a little bit, in terms of some of that vision and that, you know, community piece that you're kind of referencing. I think we have staff and students in the building that, are kind of waiting for an opportunity like this to kind of come forward and shine a little bit, so I think it's doable. I think, for me personally, at the high school, I'd like to bring some of this back and process it a little bit with some of the people that are really ingrained in this topic, and just kind of see maybe some additional things we can come up, you know, this vision helps. It gives us a little bit of direction in terms of kind of, as a board, what you're looking for. I would be most comfortable with that as the next step, just bringing it back to my building now and having some bigger discussions about what that kind of looks like.
Love it.
There's more than one way to skin this.
Our next work session is November 9th. Is that too soon to have another conversation about this?
No,
Judging by the emails I'm already getting, you bet, we'll make it happen.
Not too soon.
In a good way, people are excited to come in and be a part of it, so.
I haven't gotten any emails
I
yet.
haven't
Certainly a topic we've been discussing and continue to. We don't have any organized groups like they do at the high school yet. We use them more on teachable moments in the middle school when those things happen, but it's certainly something we can explore further in a more organized manner.
All right, cool. So this topic will come back to our November 9th work session, and we will get some input from the students and staff.
Sounds good.
Thank you so much. This was hard. This was really hard. Thank you. Advanced operations. Oh, Dave, I'm so glad you're here. Budget items.
Take a break.
All right, thanks, Lori. Moving on, if you click on the link to look at the documents for the budget and the levy, this is the next step in the process. We've been discussing the creation of the budget for many months. And this is the original budget. TJ, can you get that on the screen possibly, or?
Sure can, yep.
I guess you all probably have it in front of you on your computers.
Yep. It's tough to see the screen. I don't know if it's,
Yeah,
maybe I gotta go to the eye doctor or.
No, it's tough. Something's wrong with it.
So the main changes, I included a snapshot next to the preliminary budget from June, just to illustrate the big changes that have occurred. I didn't include, since the budget hearing in September, where this original budget right now is much closer to that one was. The main changes include the refining of the COVID costs, and at a total, we're about $850,000 in COVID costs. That's very similar to what I sent to you on the weekend update of October 4th. It's about $10,000 more right now than then, but it's very similar. The other big factor in this budget is our open enrollment tuitions. Open enrollment out is up from last year, so that expenditure is up. Open enrollment in is down from last year, so that revenue is down. This is the first time in my 10 years here where we are slightly to the negative now, more going out than coming in. So that is a big factor in regard to expenditures higher, revenues lower. So those two things combined kind of illustrate where we're at. If you look at the net on the bottom, 264,000 to the deficit, if you were to reduce the COVID costs, 852,000, we're looking at a surplus of, $590,000.
Wow.
A lot.
Wow.
A lot of resources to work with. And again, if you also consider that possibly some of the open enrollments might also be due to COVID, there is a possibility that this is even somewhat more compounded than that. So hopefully this is a one-year issue for us, but this is the reality right now. That being said, it's a unique year. We've had these discussions. I've been trying to budget conservatively. I've had discussions with George, Trish, with everybody. We're trying to err on the side of being conservative with the budget. I think it might make sense for us to possibly come back, see what the first budget to actual report looks like in early February, see what the reality is, what it's looking like, see if we've been able to change anything that we've been doing to reduce costs, and also see what if the January open enrollment count remains the same, which affects, again, revenue and expenditure.
So Dave, this doesn't include any increases of any kind for any staff, correct?
That's correct, yep.
Darn it.
Are we looking at getting any more grants for COVID-related expenses?
I am hopeful that we may see another stimulus of some sort. And that being said, even if it's similar to the last one, the method of distributing it and allocating it was not favorable for Somerset. We will get $40,000 from the CARES Act. So if they allocate it along the same lines, which is in the same method that they allocate Title I, then we're not going to get a whole lot of reimbursement. But it could be different, and so it's possible. I did not include any sort of hypothetical, future CARES Act aid in this. So this is where I'm saying there are a lot of factors that are either still possibly up in the air or that we could still address throughout the year as we go along to either reduce costs or we might see additional revenues. And that's where I'm saying it might make sense to come back a little later in the year and say, well, what's it looking like? Should we revise the budget? Should we amend the budget? We've only done that once in my 10 years here, and that was when we had a really big insurance claim come through after the budget was set, and it was messing up the budget to actual reports. But if something were to occur, this might be a good year to do that again, and then we could say, okay, what other things do we want to address this year? Can we do it now?
So would you be able to put some numbers together if we jumped everybody a step on our grid of how much that would cost?
Yeah, so
Just so we would know that for.
It's, yeah, and we can have, if if you'd like to dig in deep, we can get Jody in here and look at the different scenarios, because all employees other than the teacher group are pretty straightforward. The teacher group, if we just look at the minimum McGrath step, the minimum cost, then all employees increase is around 140,000. But there were different approaches to teacher compensation that were created last time. So it really depends what approach you're taking, what that cost then becomes.
Well, we're in a funny year, you go up at all, I mean, I think you should be happy, but I mean, I think we just look at your closest step up, would be my personal thing, and we're not discuss it now, but I mean, I think that's how you look at it, you just to the next step up, and I'm sure people are gonna come back and say, what the heck, and we say, be like, you got anything, because we don't have any money right now. We're already over budget, and next year we'd love to look at you again when we have our $500,000 that we've been back, hopefully.
We don't have to have this discussion right now, we can come back to this, not only in November, but also as Dave was saying, when he has his first budget to actual, and that would be, did you say January or February?
Early February.
Early February.
It's a long time.
It is a long time, but I guess,
The first one is always at Q2, so then processing the transactions for that month usually puts us past the January meeting date.
So you at least have some numbers for us, so.
Well, again, I want to emphasize, this is a very unique year.
Right.
There are things that may occur. We may get some reimbursement. We don't know yet. It may be significant reimbursement, it may not be. Some of the, George and I are going to circle back. We have scheduled to discuss the increase in FTE with Blue Ribbon. How is that working out? Do we need to maintain that? Can we decrease that? What does that look like? There's just these different conversations to have where at this point in time, it's not possible to know what the reality will be in a few months. And so to budget conservatively, for those things I say, well, we're going to continue as we are for the full year with the custodial staff. When that may be the case or that may not. We need to know a little bit more, and we need to have a little more time to get that information.
so one of the big expenses with the COVID costs was we increased 8 full-time custodians.
Yep.
And then the other part was ingenuity.
Yep, ingenuity versus stipend now, and all the hires specific for our COVID concerns this year was the other one.
Well, does anybody else have any more questions or for Dave? Okay, then
So then there's the two motions,
Yep.
each with a number.
we need to have a motion to adopt the 2021 Fund 10 budget of $19,482,767. Would anybody care to make that motion?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. The second motion is to certify the Fund 10 levy of $6,888,333. Would anybody care to make that motion?
I'll make the motion.
Second.
Any questions or discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
The next item on the agenda, payment of invoices.
Make a motion to approve 5B, 1, 2, 3. Can I do C1 as well?
Sure. Would anybody like to second?
Second.
Any questions or comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries unanimously. The next item is the district logo. The recommendation is to approve the district logo as presented. Does anybody have any questions or concerns? Well, maybe I should take a motion. Would anybody like to make a motion about that?
I make a motion to discuss, or?
I'll second the discussion.
Okay, what's the discussion?
What else are we going with?
Yeah, that
Well, there was just some S's sent out this afternoon, and if you open up that top one,
The graphic designer that sent those did say that they would like a little bit more direction to offer some additional options if those were not favorable.
the bottom was the original one that we were looking at.
Shannon, where'd you get your sweet sweatshirt?
Where did I?
Is that the school store?
We have an online order.
Does it have an S on it?
We've got the S that people want to get rid of.
Some people.
Yep. I like the S for the record, but, yeah.
I like that one. You had
See,
on-
Bruce, it's not so bad.
Is there any
Jen,
harm
Jen.
in approving the logo as is and having some variations to this S, please?
Yes, so we can get it off.
Well, and the font isn't bad when it's written there.
Yeah, look.
Because
Unfortunately, it doesn't look so bad.
Yeah, look at,
I
I
think it's
hardly
I can't
notice
s-
the S.
I can't see it.
It's when it's alone that you, that, have your.
Oh,
it may very well not look good on a hat. I don't wanna condemn anybody from putting an S and have another board discussion about the wrong S going on a hat. Because that ain't happening with me. So can we approve the logo and with the variations to pick out an S that you want?
Sure.
That fits with your sport or your attire.
So Bob has made a motion, would anybody, well, wait a second, we had a motion,
For
that was
discussion.
discussion. Okay, so Bob has made a motion for action, would anybody like to second?
I'll second that.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
Okay. May the record show that, 1, 2, 3, 4.
Well, it didn't really matter now, did it?
5 yes, 1 no,
Can
and
you repeat that last motion, Bob?
Make a
You wanted to
motion
punch me in the face.
A beak.
It's a beak.
Make a motion to approve the logo, with free variations to the
Yes.
S.
Okay. And who was the second on that?
Me.
and the vote was 5 yes, 1 no, 1 abstain.
Katie?
She's not here right now, she'll be back. All right, item 5E, the electronic campus signage. Would anybody like to make a motion to approve that, and then we can have a discussion on it?
Sure, I will.
Okay,
I'll second it.
all right, discussion about the electronic campus signage. A map was attached to the agenda, so does anybody have any questions about where we're talking about locating it?
But yeah, I walked out there. I think it'll look fine there. I thought it would be, I don't know where I thought it would be, but I thought it'd be somewhere else. And it's already plumbed in or wired in and everything out
Well,
there.
we got conduit out there, which,
Is that where the post for the, I don't know, must have been a, that's where that 4x4 post is? Is that where you were saying it was gonna go?
No.
no, there's a post out there.
4x4. There's a conduit pipe coming up. I don't know, I walked around out there and it's the only place for it. I mean, I don't know where else it would be. I'm
No,
fine
it's
with it.
not.
So,
Bob, were you concerned?
in that location, I was thinking it would have been towards the side of the elementary school, where the fire hydrant is, or the middle school, sorry. So when you come in, you would look at it versus looking back at it. Because when you're going through the approach of the roundabout, you're turning in, it would kind of hit everybody if you're looking.
Well, I think either side there, where you're talking and where this is, would be about the same visual.
So I'm talking about taking your circle and shoving it straight south.
Yep, yeah, I think either side is the same thing. It's more open by the pond there than it is with the trees there. You kinda,
I'm
you
afraid
might
it
get lost in the
flood.
trees though.
Is it up pretty high so it doesn't get flooded out or
Yes.
anything?
Oh, I think
Oh, yeah.
there are
It'll be up.
poles that can put it high.
Yeah.
But it is like definitely a low
There's
spot.
plenty of room there and it's a lot more clear view than over by the trees.
So this would be just where the walkway goes up, to the right of that. So
Between-
basically to the parking lot side. So the trees are over here, the walkway, and then kind of the parking lot. You know, I lost you.
Yeah, you did. I don't know.
I mean, is there gonna be any kind of issue with the people pulling out of the parking lot, seeing the traffic coming at them? Coming into the roundabout?
The world's smartest.
There might be more so if it's on the south side because, you know, you have to enter the roundabout to the right there.
Right in the middle. Put it in the middle of the road.
Right in the middle of the roundabout. Well, the motion on the floor is to have it be where the conduit pipe is coming up and it matches the map. We just have a vote on that,
I
and see if
mean,
it applies.
we did all this work to not get anybody hit, now we're gonna throw a sign in and we're worried it's gonna, I don't know, freaking hate.
Thursday morning, I came to school so I could watch. So I was here at like 7:30 in the morning to watch the traffic through the roundabout, and there were 2 crossing guards out there, and I asked them, and both of the crossing guards were in favor of it, but I'm concerned. I don't want to be responsible for an accident of a student or a staff member. And I am concerned about
But everybody has.
liability. You know, if we put a sign out there and something happens, are we responsible? I don't know the answer to that question.
Doesn't matter.
I would say if the wind blows it down and hits someone's car, we're probably responsible, but I don't think we're any more responsible than any other type of sign that's out there, any other distraction.
Don't have it up in
But
someone's
again, you gotta feel comfortable with it.
Did anybody else have a question or comment?
Do you apply for a sign permit? I'm serious.
Someone told me that we'd have to worry about that.
That wasn't me.
Oh, so we could table it until the permit's approved.
He would dictate where that sign is, to be honest.
Yeah.
It might not be approved, it might be too close to the road.
Might be.
Is there ordinances we
Yes,
gotta
there
deal with?
is.
And maybe ordinance is what I was asking you about, those that we didn't have to worry about.
Especially digital signs.
So would you,
I'd apply for the permit, to be honest with you. I'm not being smart, being honest.
No, you're probably right.
They can say, no, ain't happening.
all right, so there's a
But
motion.
can we put it on order? Cause we could probably figure out that within the next meeting, if you're wanting to get this in before the frost goes.
Well, I don't think it's gonna happen now, before the frost goes in. Cause there's a long lead time on this thing here, so it's probably already going to next spring if it goes, so. I don't feel a burning fire urgency to do this at this point in time, cause I don't think it'll get done this fall. So if, we wanna proceed with looking at permits and the ordinances to see, you know,
Yeah, let me get that for you.
okay.
Did we talk about pricing other signs? I thought someone asked at the last meeting to price other type of monuments or to see, not just this kind of, did I make that up? I thought we talked about that, because with the people who weren't a fan of the electronic signs, to see what else was out there.
Yeah, well, they had 120,000 in the budget for monuments.
So
And
I
then
think
this
that-
was, and the price on this is just to go out, to give us an idea to go out to bid, that wasn't the,
Yeah.
Yeah, this is just the art, this is just a quote
Yeah, I
for-
just thought in the last
no.
meeting, we were talking about looking at other options for the non-electronic signs.
Oh, yeah, no,
I
that was.
thought we talked about that in the last meeting.
So Lori, can I take my motion off the table then?
Well, we have, yeah, I suppose you could. Bob made the motion.
Oh, I thought
You seconded.
I second.
Otherwise, we could just vote and vote it down.
She made the motion, I second the motion.
Yeah, so I'm taking it off the table.
All right, we're gonna take it off the table. All right, so this item is tabled at this time until we get further information about permits and ordinances.
yeah,
All right.
that's fine, yeah.
Okay, then the next item is, policy updates. I will do my best to make this as painless as possible. I would like to recommend that we approve policies 1213, the student supervision and welfare, 7540.03, the student technology acceptable use and safety policy, 7540.04, staff technology acceptable use and safety, and 8450.01, personal protective equipment during pandemic epidemic events. Would anybody care to second?
I'll second.
These 4 policies are being presented as they were in our work session with no changes or additions. Does anybody have any questions or comments on these 4 policies? All right, then, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion carries. There were some additions for policies 3440 and 4440. The administrators had added a recommendation, and the committee looked at those recommendations and would like to make a motion. I will make a motion that we approve the administrative recommendations for policies 3440 and 4440.
I'll second.
Thank you. Any questions or discussion? The only difference is they put meals/food.
Oh, okay.
That was the only difference.
So does this include meals that would be purchased for, positive recognition, the ACT types?
I'm sorry, I didn't catch the last thing you said.
Would this include
I heard positive
lunches for
recognition.
positive recognition, the ACT, those types of events? Would that include that as well? So we're no longer providing, meals for staff as, you know, a token of thank you?
Uh-huh.
That's included in here?
Mhm.
We're no longer doing that?
That's what this would mean.
Okay, then I don't support it.
Okay. Did anybody else have a question or a comment? All right, then, all in favor of supporting the administrative suggestions for 3440 and 4440?
Aye.
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 Any opposed?
Opposed?
All right, so motion carries 5-1. The next one is 6712, that had the same changes as 3440 and 4440. I'd like to make a motion to approve 6712.
Second.
Any questions or discussions? This is a new policy and it goes right in line with what we just passed with 3440 and 4440.
Can I find the policy first, please?
Oh, 6712, I'm sorry. 6712 is the policy that was approved
That
in
says
February
PC
last
policies
year that we don't
3440.
have, and it just simply says C policy 3440 and 4440.
That's why they're all in the same
Yeah.
font.
Any other questions or comments on this? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Opposed?
Motion carries 5-1. The new policy is 6423, use of credit cards. This one also goes along with the same type of language as 3440 and 4440. Does anybody have, I'll make a motion to pass 6423. Is there a second?
A second.
Any questions or comments on this one?
So this would include not providing lunches for positive recognition,
That is correct.
volunteers that we've done for decades, if not longer.
Mhm. Pardon me? Any? Tasia, do you have a second on this?
Yep, hi Joe.
Okay, thank you. Did anybody else have any questions or comments on this one? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Opposed?
Okay, so motion passes 4-2. All right, 7540. This is technology and there were some changes and this is the one that I emailed out to you earlier to show in the bright pink what the additions were. So this one, the administrators came back with a recommendation. The kids used to sign a student technology acceptable use and safety form. They no longer do. The administrators recommended changing that language as I have in the paragraph above. So it would now say, students' use of district technology resources is a privilege, not a right. Students review and adhere to the policy found in the student handbooks. Parents read and acknowledge the student technology acceptable use and safety policy when completing the online registration in our student information system annually. And that was the only change to this policy from the first reading. So I would make a motion to accept policy 7540. Is there a second?
Second.
Are there any questions or discussion on this? All right, then, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. The next policy, 7540.02, This is the one that the committee had come back in the first reading and asked administrators to make recommendations for the end of it. So that's where you see the changes from the first reading. In after item C, website accessibility, number 1, the technical standards, the school district's web address is added, level AA is added. In section 2, the board designates its section 504 ADA compliance coordinators as the choice recommended. They recommended option 1. And then down below in number 4, regular audits, they recommended to remove that option item about audit. And Trish sent out a document with those, the reasoning behind that. That was attached with the policies. And then the last, well, some of the last changes. So then down below, you have to select option 1 or 2. They recommended option 2, district administrator or designee, and section 504. And the board further requires the use of board-issued email address in the login process. Annual training, they're recommending be periodic. And that was it for changes to that policy from the first reading. And these were all recommended by the administrators. So I'll make a motion to approve policy 7540.02.
Second.
Any questions or discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Then the last policy we have before us is 7544. The administrators are recommending that at the bottom of page 1, a phrase be removed. Must contain a statement that specifies its purposes and. They are recommending that we choose the option, this is on page 3, 1, 2, 3, at the top of page 3. They're recommending that we choose the option staff members cannot rely on social networking platforms. And again, there was a note as to their reasoning in the, attached to the agenda with this item. The next part, employees' use of district technology resources. The policy committee had recommended option 5. We had discussion at the first reading. The administrators came back and recommended that we go with option 9. Again, they gave their reasoning in that document. And then the same with this next item, use of personal communication devices at work. The committee had recommended option 11. The administrators recommended option 12 instead. And the committee discussed all of these recommendations and is good with them. So we would like to make a motion to approve policy 7544 as attached to this agenda. Is there a second?
Second.
Any questions or comments on this policy? Administrators, is there anything you wanted to add to any of this? Your written document is there? Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Distance learning update is letter G on this item. How's it going?
Oops, I missed that part because I looked down for a second.
Distance learning
Oh.
update?
How is it going?
Mhm.
Well, Brandon
I mean,
wrote you an update in the last weekly update. Things are going much smoother. Teachers had a lot to get caught up on, so our teachers that are working now as in place had a lot of backlog to get caught up on because there were several weeks of assignments that were sitting there to be graded. So we have one of the teachers here in our audience. How's it going, Ms. Eichton?
Oh, great. I've got journalism students. I'm learning too, it's fun. Yeah, it's good, and I've had a couple kids reach out and say I didn't do so well, I'd like to try that again, and then a couple that need a nudge, so it's, it's very different than what I'm used to as a teacher who's face-to-face with kids, but, yeah, they're humming along, so, yeah. It's an easy platform to learn, I mean, it's not difficult to maneuver and to interact with, so it's just learning the nuances of a completely different format than what I'm used to, so.
We reached out to the other school districts that are using the same platform, and they reported back that in the first 3 weeks or so, they had a lot of movement within the platform of kids moving in and moving out, which is the same that we had seen. We started 2 weeks later than the other districts, so same exact trend. Right now, we are smooth sailing, not a lot of movement, not a lot of phone calls. Brandon is managing the parent communication side. We are doing screening this week of our virtual students. Grades 2 and up. Grades K and 1, we have some flexibility with that window, and so we are waiting to see what the best model will be for our K1, our littles. We have plenty of time to get that done, and so we just want to wait a little longer before we go after some screening data for them. That should go really well. Fast Bridge is easy to do at home as long as we have some good understanding and our parents understand it's not high stakes, it's not graded, it's just information that we're seeking to see how they're doing in this moment in time. Brandon's getting a lot of kudos for his support of our teachers. He's getting a lot of kudos for his support of our families. That's going really well. Just recently, there was a Facebook post, I don't know if any saw that. Did you see that? At first it started a little bit like, where's this gonna go? And then it kind of self-corrected and people said, now that our teachers are in the driver's seats, it's much smoother. And it was really nice to see the positive feedback after being so tumultuous in the very beginning. So, whew, I think we're on the right road now.
I've received several emails from families as well that things are much better.
Yeah.
So that's great. Thank you. And please extend our thanks to everyone working on it. Consent agenda is next. Would anybody care to make a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve 6A 1 and 2, B, C 1 and 2, and item D.
Second.
Any questions or discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. General information, the November meeting dates are the 9th and the 23rd. Once around the table, Patty, Joe, do you have anything?
I sent you guys an email with SCC's COVID dashboard, and I think it is awesome. And I really think the transparency that it provides to the community is really awesome, and I don't know what it would take to do something like that, but it's great when it loads. It's a really good thing for the community to kind of see. It shows what we're doing as a district, and it just is fully transparent. So I think the board should look at that and see if it's something that the district should do.
So SCC is St. Croix Central, not
Correct.
St. Croix County.
Correct, St. Croix Central School District. I emailed the link to you, but I mean, you go to the little dashboard and it has all the numbers, and it's really just a snapshot to show what the school district's doing, and it really is transparent, and I think it's really nice.
Yeah, it is. Thank you. Roxanne?
Really quick, my daughter was one of the students that was
quarantined due to contact with someone at the school. I hope that student and her family are okay. But I really wanted to point out to our administrators that I'm working from home, so I was pretty tuned in to what was going on all day. She was busy from morning till afternoon. She was tuned in to every class. I overheard lectures being given by teachers. I overheard more than once, are you following? Do you have any questions? Are you sure you understand? I can't tell you how appreciative I am as a parent and how great, unbelievable, phenomenal the teachers were. She is not one bit behind going back to school tomorrow. And I really, really, as a parent, it's just, I know we have amazing staff here, but I saw it really firsthand, and I just really want you to know that. Thank you very much. Bruce?
We all got the email today from the St. Croix Falls AD, I think, just positive, how disciplined and positive the Somerset students were at the regional final. Very impressive. Obviously, leadership at Somerset High School has done an excellent job. So of all the comments and all the discussions and all the items that we're talking about, community-based, I mean, getting emails like this that our students are out in other communities doing the right thing means that the teachers, the staff, the administration, everyone's doing the right thing here, and our students are doing the right thing out there, and that's what I think is the most important thing, that kids should get out of school, that they can handle themselves out in public, and to get a positive recognition is why I love being in Somerset and what we've pushed since I was here. That's more important what you're doing out there, you know, than what we're getting here. So that's awesome, and I'm just glad to have a positive from outside sources. It's great.
Absolutely. Bob?
No.
Would anybody like to make a meeting to adjourn?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second?
Second.
Meeting adjourned at 9:14. All in favor? Any opposed? All right.